Thanks everyone for staying with us. We'll continue to support you with the training. And of course, I'm just going to give a brief overview of the labor law of Nigeria. I'm not speaking as an expert lawyer. This is just basics in terms of making you aware of what's out there. So in terms of what we'll cover, we'll look at introduction, recruiting in terms of employment, recruiting foreign employees, termination and redundancy, obligations to members of trade unions, work safety, and the disturbing issue of discrimination. So the labor law is well developed in Nigeria, as you can imagine. It's been there for a very long time, from the pre-colonial era. And so there are obligations of labor regulating most aspects of it as it is. And so this presentation is going to explain that. Key laws, that is important to look at is from you've got the Labor Act, the Factories Act, the Pensions Act, the Trade Union Amended Act, the Employee Compensation Act, and you can see how this has changed over the time, and the Pensions Reform Act most recently of 2014. Now, in terms of recruitment, it is required that within 90 days of joining a staff, the employer must give a written contract specifying the name of both sides and the undertaking by which he's employed. And so what that means is you should get a written contract within 90 days of starting. So some people do not understand this. There is, non-written contract. However, I mean, in our company, we would give you a written contract in most cases before your first day on the job or within your first week on the job. So there's a minimum that it would cover, of course, hours, mode of payment, leaves and holidays and things like that. So no child would be employed to work in any capacity except where is employed by a member of family and not required to lift, carry, or move things. So that's children working. It's an entirely different area. We do not employ anyone that is a child under Nigerian law. So that's 18 and below. In terms of foreign nationals, there are some rules around this, and that's overseen by the Federal Ministry of Interior, and there's a requirement for approval, and the assignments could be short term or long term, and all of the things around visas and things. And so in terms of work and overtime, it's specified under the National Minimum Wage Act, which has changed over the years. But like I've said in all of our adverts, we are a business that is compliant with the new minimum wage of the federal government, which makes us more competitive than even certain state governments that are still in the process of trying to accept the new minimum wage. So that's all of the acts. Now, modes of payment and deduction. So the wages are payable at the end of each period, as mentioned in the contract. So our contracts usually for people that have a substantive role with us would have payments monthly. People that have temporary roles with us would likely have a payment weekly or depending on what we've agreed with them. And of course, if people are interested in joining a pension and they are eligible, that's something we would consider and discuss with them in the recruitment process. So modes of payment, I've talked about all of these, and this is where in terms of housing contribution, again, this is something we will discuss with you at the time you're joining our business. Leaves is in line with leave as it's offered. So for people that are committed to a contract that is at least a year and above, we will offer them leave and leave pay, in line with what is practiced by the state and federal government of Nigeria. Unfortunately, in terms of termination and resignation, a notice period is required, and so there's a month notice period, which is the clause. However, depends on your contract with us. We may have a different agreement at the time you're joining, but this is generally the indicative um, notice period for 2 to 5 years employment, and terminal benefits paid upon the number of years that people have stayed with us. Leave and allowance, these are the notice periods that people should give. So if 6 months to 3 years, a month's notice period. 3 years to 6 years, of course, 2 months, and then 6 years to 9, it would be 3 months. So redundancy defines redundancy as permanent loss of employment caused by excessive manpower. This is not something that we think would be a problem for our business, but however, for if we think that's the case, so the principle of last in, first out, relative merit, and use best effort to negotiate redundancy, and employees who are not protected by regulations made under the Act. So in terms of trade unions, we're not a big business, and therefore at this point we do not recognize trade unions at this point. In the future, that can be something that we can look into, but currently trade union membership is not something we recognize, so we wouldn't negotiate your contract by with a trade union involved. Your contracts will be negotiated by our internal HR. It's something very important to clarify. So health and safety, we have a health and safety and environment team. We're going to have that in place, and we're going to ensure that every staff joining us receives the prerequisite training and the direction required. We would not tolerate discrimination of any kind at work in our premises, and that's also that would not be accepted. So people would not be discriminated, and also would not discriminate others on the basis of sex, tribe, beliefs, individuality, and of course ability or disability. There's, however, going to be, we also would try where possible to offer positive discrimination in terms of people that have disability, or so that they can be able to join the workforce as much as possible. Thank you for listening. Like I've said in the previous training, comment that you have complete this training. Tell us where you're completing it from, and also like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.